Here's an idea Trump had. Go to the NBA playoff games for the Knicks as a native New Yorker, knowing New York's politics, and see how it goes. This is how it went. This is the first time a U.S. president has ever done this, which, by the way, made it impossible for anyone to do tailgates because everybody had to be in the facility 2 hours before the event started. Which, by the way, absolutely sucks. Having to sit in your uncomfortable ass chair 2 hours early before the game even starts. Not a super positive response. The admin tried to say there were some cheers and some boos. That was not the perception that I got. Was some cheers and some boos. A lot more boos, it seemed to be. They eventually posted something about with him saluting, a draft dodger saluting during the national anthem for whatever reason, and said that he is the king of New York, which I'm sure they took well to, as New York was one of the major hotspots of the No Kings protest. Here is Donald Trump falling asleep during the game. Standing up, you can clearly see his eyes closed. He was out of it for 30 seconds. He has also fallen asleep during meetings. He has also fallen asleep in many different spots now during his second term as the oldest U.S. president in American history. I will put out there that it would suck so unbelievably hard if every single time I took a nap standing up, the whole country stared at me. So this is the one thing I might have some sympathy for in him. More Trump news. Donald Trump crashed out during an interview and then left the interview after he was continuously asked a question about the rigging of elections, which he still says the election in 2020 was stolen, and he treats it as a truth. It is now conservative mythology, as one might believe in Zeus, as one might play God of War and say Kratos is real. To the majority of those in the Republican base, the 2020 election was stolen. Joe Biden was illegitimately installed as president of the United States. And that type of like QAnon level belief about the election, something that should have been a national embarrassment. Oh my God, he didn't accept the results of the election. Oh my God, he challenged it in court again and again and again and kept losing. Oh my gosh, all these claims about bamboo paper, all these claims made by Mike Lindell as he was given the red carpet into the White House for his crazy theories as he tried to grasp on straws. All these theories pushed by Rudy Giuliani that was entertained by Congress members, including current Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. All of this is so embarrassing. Oh my gosh, this should stop him from being able to be president. It didn't.
Has donated $5. Can Ukrainian long-range drones still be jammed? I'd be surprised they still depend on GPS when autonomous navigation, AI has gotten so good.
There has been Ukrainian drones being jammed and then they go off course. Yes, they do. Not all of them. There are drones that rely on AI for the late stage impacts. So let's say you get jammed and the radio jamming happens, and because you're using an analog signal, you lose your connection. The AI programs that can be installed on some of these drones can allow the AI system to take over, look for something that vaguely looks like a target, as if like you were video game software, like trying to do tracking the target, and then it goes for that. And those AI systems have killed probably thousands of soldiers all across the front line in those late stage strike patterns, at the late stage, impact period. Where was I on Trump before it was asked that? Thank you for the $5, though. I do appreciate it. But Trump is being asked about this election hoax that he continues to promote. He then tries to extend it into the current day in these midterm elections and, primary elections that are going on. And because of the way that the interviewer conducts the interview, he eventually just quits. After, and the interviewer goes as far to be like, I came all the way from Wisconsin for this. Come on.
The election.
By the way, this isn't like I don't know. This isn't like Brian Tyler Cohen. This is like NBC.
The election was rigged. It was a dirty election.
Mr.
And it's happening again right now in California.
Presented evidence
it's happening
the
right now in California. Right now, it's look at what's happening in California.
To that?
So he starts, this is like just 2 minutes. This is not the full thing, but he starts 2020 rigged, blah, blah, blah. Now that's happening again now. So the reason why the mythos was built is so that every time they come around to an election where the Republicans might have bad odds, and due to historical trends, 2026 could be bad for them, due to Trump's polling himself on foreign policy issues, on the war with Iran, on the war between Russia and Ukraine, on inflation, on the price at the pump. It could be a bad night for Republicans, even with the redistricting advantage that they tried to earn themselves. And so this could be a potential escape hatch that he is preparing for himself, that he's prepared since he lost primaries to Ted Cruz, and he denied the election results then and asked the Republican Party to change the results and make him the winner. He's been a sore loser for forever, and now he's trying to use that tendency he has to be unable to take a loss in order to make it a strategic advantage.
It's
the
4
Republicans
days
are doing well in
California. No, they're not. They're dropping fast because it's a rigged election. Let me tell you, it's 4 days.
By the way, Hilton went into the runoff for California governor. He beat the billionaire who spent over $200 million of his own money. He beat Tom Steyer. Despite, I mean, this is somebody who spent so much money. He beat him. He's going off into the primary. He's going against Xavier. I mean, in the general, he's going to have a general election between a Republican and a Democrat. It's not going to be 2 Democrats, Republican, Democrat. So if it's rigged, was it just rigged in LA, but it wasn't rigged in California? Because you would think if it was rigged for Democrats, Democrats would want voters to only have the choice between Xavier and a billionaire Democrat. And just like in LA, they're not going to have the choice of Spencer Pratt, because Spencer Pratt did not perform well enough.
Days, and they aren't even close to coming up with it. You know why they're doing that? Because
so I just don't know why they would have Spencer Pratt win, but then they have lose, but then they have the other guy win the runoff so he can be in the general. If they're rigging it, why are they having Republicans, advance in elections?
And they aren't even close to coming up with it. You know why they're doing that? Because they're cheating on the election.
Do you have evidence to support that?
All I have to do is look. All I have to do is look.
That's not evidence.
And I listen.
All I have to do is look. If this was another president, this would be laughable. Do you have evidence to support your claims that there is massive cheating going on in California, so it doesn't just look like you're a wah crybaby, I'm unpopular, wah. Even with all the problems in California, Republicans aren't performing very well, in part because of my toxic image, especially in a state like California that does not particularly like Donald Trump. Wah. Why is it not that? And his response is, all you have to do is look. It's not, here is evidence of vote rigging. Here is evidence of the machines being hacked. Here is evidence of, ballot stuffing. No, it's just look. It's almost as if he just said, I'm appealing to common sense. It's like, look into the ether.
I listen to people, and let's see what happens.
But, sir, that's not evidence.
Do you think it's appropriate?
That's how they count the votes in California.
Do you think it's appropriate that they have an election, and 5 days later...
That's not a question about whether or not it's rigged. He's just saying he doesn't like that it takes this long to count the votes. It's not great. It's bad that it takes this long to count the votes. I can understand how it can undermine confidence, but it is the U.S. president's job, unless he sees there's something wrong with an election, not to undermine the results or undermine the credibility of these elections, because it undermines the credibility of the state, because it comes into question the very legitimacy by which the state, discerns its power from, takes its power from, which is elections and the consent of the governed. And he's doing it completely. This destabilizing action. He's doing it completely just to benefit his own partisan ends, which he's always done all the way back since 2015. For over a decade, he has undermined Americans' trust in elections. For over a decade, he has done basically nothing in order to advance, actually get something through, Mr. Dealmaker, Mr. Let's, art of the deal, to actually get something through to increase trust in elections. He has instead weaponized distrust in elections for his own ends. He doesn't want there ever to be trust in elections. If there was trust in elections, then he wouldn't be able to deny the result of every election he loses.
Nowhere close to picking a winner.
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
They're urging the votes to be counted quickly. That's how they vote in California.
They're crooked, just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
really.
Let's
well,
continue.
You play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play right into their hands with this rap.
Reagan couldn't do this. Biden couldn't do this. Obama couldn't do this. Bush couldn't do that. There is no U.S. president in history that could avoid legitimate questions about, hey, you just said the election's rigged. You know, you're trying to like use the courts to go after these. You know, you're trying to put loyalists in all these key positions. No, we were worried about, you know, the health of our democracy. And he can just like, you're crooked. So questions you ask are crooked. You know, everybody's crooked. Anything that doesn't say what I'm saying is crooked. It's just like a complete hand waving and just rely. His base will rule, will stick with him. As long as he said it, it is the truth, and he will advance. The only area that hasn't really worked on is Epstein. And even to that, you look at some of those comments, people even riding with him on that issue.
Or you're stupid. You play right into their hands with this rap. You know that these elections are rigged. Your network knows that they're rigged. You know that.
But he can't give any evidence when asked, but he can't present any, you know, voter falsification of documents, nothing. It's just, well, why is it taking so long? That's it. That's the only evidence he presented was more speculation and a question. Like, that's the only evidence that's been presented. He is the president of the United States. You don't think he couldn't use his mass intelligence empire or the information at his disposal to try to prove that, to try to show that if there was anything legitimate when it comes to the election being possibly rigged, that he wouldn't have that? Besides any logical conclusion of, well, if it is rigged, why'd they let the Republican advance in the California gubernatorial election? Fuck that. Fuck the logic. Anything? Do we have anything?
I won an election in a landslide, and I got 94% bad press.
But Mr. President,
you know why I got that? Because you have no credibility.
But you've never presented evidence that it was rigged. Let's keep talking about. I want to talk about Todd.
You have more evidence. There's more evidence than ever presented.
Let's talk.
And yet he can't think of one.
Your elections in this country were like
no piece of evidence, nothing he can present forward. But this is not for him to make a case or to prove anything. This is for him to just like talk about this alternative reality not every American lives in, but if you are in a certain algorithmic cycle that will just say, why is this taking so long? I hear that there's a woman that's 132 that voted in this California election. I saw this one influencer talk about that Nick guy. You know, you're in this cycle. You're in this algorithmic cycle. You don't need Trump in this moment to give evidence. You don't need Trump to prove it in this moment. You just need Trump not to burst that bubble. And Trump has to put up enough of a struggle that this journalist doesn't burst that bubble. That's why he's acting so acidically. That's why he's acting so toxic in his reaction to this woman, because she is threatening to burst that bubble. She is threatening to, you know, poke a hole with her pen into that like fabric of reality that's been crafted algorithmically for Trump supporters, for them to live in a bubble where the president can do no wrong, where the president cannot lose a primary election, the president cannot lose a general election, the president cannot lose any election. If they do lose an election, it's rigged. And even if they lose the popular vote, it's rigged. That's not, it can't even be that he just loses the election, wins the election. He must win the election in every available metric. If there was an alternative way by which they would count the votes, he must win there too, even if the numbers say otherwise. There must, I mean, this type of system is what Trump uses to keep these people in the fundraiser orbit, to keep draining them of every dollar that they earn from their work, to keep them scrolling on social media, consuming pro-MAGA content, and stopping them from asking any questions. This is the media space that he is speaking to, which is maybe not most of the country, but is 32% of the country that has a propensity to go out and vote.
a third world country.
Sir,
your elections are crooked, and you're crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked, and so is ABC, and CBS, and CNN.
But Mr. President,
you're one-sided crooked networks. Right, let's call it quits, because I've had enough. Thank you, darling. Have a good time.
Mr. President, please, I traveled all the way to Wisconsin.
I've sat in the rain with you.
I know. I
sat in the rain
all the
with
way
you
to
for an hour,
Wisconsin.
on and off in the rain, and I've given you enough time. You ought to straighten out your press, because you know what?
Mr.
A
President,
country can never be great with a dishonest
Listen,
press.
we
Come on, let's
traveled
go.
all the way to Wisconsin for this interview. I spoke with President Trump on Saturday, and we both acknowledged the complications during the interview posed by the rain. He agreed to sit down with me for another Meet the Press interview.
So he's going to do another interview because she didn't get to ask him many questions, and the rain made it so that she didn't get a full interview. But I mean, she would have gotten a full interview, and he wouldn't have to talk about a follow-up interview to make it not look like he's running away from her, because he canceled. He said, no, stop asking for evidence. He said, well, the vote took too long and there's more evidence than ever. He didn't cite anything specifically because whatever he's seen likely was served up to him by the same algorithm meant to serve him. I mean, he's eating the same slop at the trough for the pigs that is not even supposed to be for him. But he's in those same algorithm tunnels all the time. Why do you think those Truth Social posts go out in the middle of the night? Why do you think he reposts complete nonsense on Truth Social from people who are like sometimes just straight up QAnoners, sometimes just people who are absolutely insane, sometimes people that, I mean, are crazier than crazy, even crazier than the worst crazy in this cabinet, and you've got RFK in it. The Clinton News Network